Okay, Paul Rhino the Ryan is gone, but now Mitt Romney, an even bigger rhino maybe, is back in town. And what does he do? The first thing this ungrateful bastard does is he attacks President Trump's character. You know, President Trump, he didn't have anything to say about President Trump's character when he accepted Trump's endorsement a couple of months ago. But that shows real character, doesn't it, that you bite the hand that feeds you. And there were comparisons made to other presidents, JFK, LBJ, Clinton. Well, let's follow that thread of thought. JFK was a great president, I think, but he was not of good character. I mean, the guy was constantly screwing women. He made Bill Clinton look like an amateur. As one Secret Service agent said one time, he was banging broads 2 at a time in the White House. As for LBJ, this jerk was an outright racist, hated blacks, used the N-word a lot. He was kind of forced into signing JFK's Civil Rights Bill. He had fought against that Civil Rights Bill for 20 years before he finally signed it. But he created the Great Society to keep blacks dependent on government and on Democrats. He is infamous for having said, after he signed the welfare bill, this will keep them niggers voting for the next 100 years. Please, that was Johnson speaking. That's a direct quote from him. That wasn't me. Now, let's look at Bill Clinton. Wow, we all know about Bill Clinton because he's kind of recent. He used to screw in the White House. He had an intern give him oral sex just off the Oval Office. Actually, that's something that, maybe guys will say, hey, that's not bad. But still, that doesn't show good character, especially since he has a history of sexual predatory behavior. He actually raped some women. We'll go a little further back. Go to FDR, who is considered, a great Democrat. He died in the arms of his mistress. Go even further back to the 1900s. I'm sorry, the 1800s, 19th century. Grover Cleveland had a child out of wedlock. In fact, I remember hearing a story that part of his opponent's campaign was something questioning, where's your daddy? And that after the election, after he won the White House, the Democrats answered, proudly I should say, he's in the White House. Let's look at some more contemporary Democrats here that haven't been president. Liz Warren, who wants to run for president. She's a liar. She's a proven liar. And now she's trying to run for president, trying to get her credibility back. But what about her character? Well, her husband, her first husband, put her through college, put her through law school. As soon as she gets out of there, 73 days after she graduates, she meets a professor that she falls in love with. So she leaves her husband and 2 kids, divorces her husband, who had sacrificed so much to make her into a lawyer and a teacher. That's character, isn't it? Joe Biden. Here's one. This guy is a chronic liar. Back in the 1990s when he ran against, I believe, George H.W. Bush, he concocted a story that about his life, that he had come from a certain background and so forth, and it was really a violin sob story. It turns out that whole story he hijacked from a British politician. He had never lived what he claimed he had lived. He was trying to show people he rose from extreme poverty and deprivation to become what he became, a senator. This guy's going to run for president in 2 years too. Nice character. Oh, that's right. His nickname also is these days is Creepy Joe Biden because of the way he acts around young girls. And by young, I mean under 14. You can see the parents in the videos are very uncomfortable with the way he's hovering over and touching their daughters. He really is creepy. That's good character, isn't it? While President Trump is a womanizer, at least he limits his taste in women to women who were more than of legal age, who are beautiful. He doesn't drink. He doesn't curse. He does tell it like it is. He does attack people. He has no qualms about that. And that's why a lot of people don't like him, because they like that rhetoric, that Democratic talk where you don't really come out and call people liars, unless, of course, you're a Democrat yelling at Republicans and then you're saying they're lying about everything. But they don't like a president who speaks plainly. All my life, I remember hearing people complain about how politicians say one thing and do another. Well, Donald Trump has come around. He has been trying to follow all his promises. He's kept a lot of them, and the ones he hasn't kept because of the obstructionism of Democrats and rhinos. But here he is, the first honest president we've had in a long time, and people don't like it because what he says hurts other people's feelings. Oh. Let's look at the character of Bernie Sanders. He is an avowed communist. He claims he's a socialist, but he loves communism. He loved Russia. He went there on his honeymoon and everything. And he is always railing against the wealthy. Meanwhile, he's wealthy as anything. Okay, he's very rich. Why? He's a hypocrite. Why doesn't he give his money away? Then we come to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Occasional Cortex, as some people call her. She would like people to think that she's Alex from the Bronx. Well, she was actually raised in a town up in Westchester, Yorktown Heights. It's a good town. Now, Yorktown Heights has the average family's wealth up there is $1.2 million. That doesn't mean she was that wealthy. I'm not saying that. But that's the neighborhood she grew up in. The Bronx, meanwhile, the average family wealth is $400,000. She's trying to get people to believe that she grew up in the Bronx. Then she finally relented a little and said, oh, she grew up in two different worlds, the Bronx and over there. No, she moved up to, or her parents moved her up to Westchester before she even started school. So she even went to a great school. She's gone to great schools all her life. She has never, ever been deprived. Meanwhile, she's trying to make people believe that she is like them. She's one of the poor masses. Bullshit. She's a chronic liar. That shows what her character is. Finally, Hillary Clinton. Where do you begin? Where do you end? I don't even have to cover her. I mean, everyone knows, even the people who support her, what kind of character she has. It's disgusting. Let's put it that way. And the media over here is pointing out that in 2016, a Pew poll in Europe found that 84% of the people in Europe had a favorable impression of Donald Trump. And now, last year, it was down to 16%. But this is because, and I've spoken to people in Europe, they are fed a line of bullshit just as bad as we are here. The politicians, the bureaucrats, the mass media in Europe doesn't like Donald Trump any more than the politicians, bureaucrats, and media here. So they purposely keep the truth from people. They omit certain stories. They will only cover what they think is news, or actually the news they make up so as to influence people's minds. A prime example is Sweden. Sweden is the number one rape capital of the world these days, but the Swedish people don't know that for the most part. They're starting to find out now through the internet and so forth. But in Sweden, it seems like the Muslim invaders have a lot more rights than Swedish natives, than European Swedes. Finally, word's starting to get out, and people are starting to revolt against it. Look at France, okay? You have this yellow jacket thing or whatever. They're trying to make you think, the media is trying to make you think that this is all because of rising gas prices and something to do with their pension in the future. No, it's not. That's another MSM lie. They are starting to revolt because the European bureaucrats The UK is allowing Europe to be overrun with a group of people who will never assimilate into European culture, never assimilate into the cultures of the individual countries in which they are going. The only countries who are not having problems with these people, who are not having terrorist problems, who are not having a rape culture come into their country, are the Eastern European countries that used to be under the yoke of the Soviet Union. Poland and Hungary are the primary ones. They are shining examples for what the rest of Europe should be doing, kicking these people out or keeping them out. The more they allow these people in, the more their country, their culture, their economy suffers. The more the people of those countries suffer. And it's well known, really, that back in the 50s, the Muslim Brotherhood vowed that they would take over Europe through the bellies of their daughters, because they were going to invade Europe slowly, not with weapons, but they were going to invade with numbers. The ultimate goal of Islam is submission. That is what the word Islam means. And they want everyone in Europe to submit to Islam. They want everyone in the world to submit to Islam. It is not a religion of peace. The only peace they want is a peace they claim will come only after the entire world is Muslim. Holy shit. Can you imagine living under Sharia law? That, by the way, is something else I'm going to talk about, because I think that's the aim of the globalists. This is why they are allowing Muslims into the West and even into Asia, because they want to institute Islam as sort of some kind of official religion. And it is ruled by Sharia law. Sharia law, accepts no deviation from the teachings of the Quran. So if your leaders are self-avowed Muslims who are telling you things that they say are in accordance with the teachings of the Quran, you'd better not deviate, because you're going to be killed and nobody will say a word, because Sharia law is unforgiving. Islam is unforgiving. An imam not long ago admitted that, he's one of the best Islamic scholars, if you can call an Islamic scholar best at anything. He said that Islam would not exist today if it were not for the fact that they punish apostasy. Apostasy is leaving the faith. And it's a heretical stance, and it is punishable by death. This was how Muhammad originally conquered so many countries. He came up and he said, you either convert to Islam or I'll kill you all. And he did that a few times. So people who would face his armies would surrender and convert to Islam. This is how this so-called religion, which is really a political system of control, complete and total control, expanded so much in the world. And people just recite the words of the Quran. Most of them don't even realize what they're saying, except for what the imam points out. And too many imams, I wouldn't say all of them, but too many of them are radical and so filled with hatred for non-Muslims that that's what they stress, is all the later writings of Muhammad in the Quran that call for them to kill Christians and Jews wherever they find them. Kill all non-Muslims, basically. But I'm getting off the track here again. We were talking about President Trump's character. Mitt Romney wants a phony up in the White House. He doesn't like someone who speaks honestly. That's why he's against Donald Trump. That's why he's attacking Donald Trump. All right, that's enough for this broadcast. I'll get on to a few other subjects in a couple of days. Happy New Year.